Hey everyone, this is Friedel Hakaraja, Rave, and I'm here with my recap review of Claw season number 4, episode number 8, which is titled Reckoning. Now, I do have a slight cough going on, so if I end up coughing in this video, I apologize. I really do, because I don't think I have the time to sit down and edit out all of the coughing sequences if they occur. So, yeah, let's get to it. The episode opens up with Desna. She's just feeling unhappy because she wasn't able to see through Tony's lies, and he ended up being working for the DEA, which she found out in the previous episode. And I'm like, Desna, how could you be so like? How could you not see something so clearly? Like Tony just happened to appear in your life. Like how? I wanted Desna to be smarter than this, but then again, after the emotional toll she went through because of Roller, maybe she was just trying to find someone to love and someone to not basically love per se, but she was just looking for affection, and Tony was giving that to her, and yeah, she was so into the good that she just couldn't see through all of the bad. But anyway, or you could just chalk it up to plot convenience, whatever you want to do. But Desna, I expected more from you. So yeah, she's angry at herself and she's disappointed. And I'm like, yep, I'm looking forward to seeing how she's going to try and play Tony now. So she comes downstairs, and Dean and Eve are having breakfast. They're having fun, and yeah, Dean actually likes talking to Eve because Eve is she's well read and all of that stuff. So Dean invites her for breakfast. And Desna's like, no, 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 I need to go. And Dina's like, are you okay, Desna? I haven't seen you this worried since Roller got arrested and all of that stuff. And Desna's like, no, it's just that I have to meet someone at the salon. And before she can walk out of her apartment, Tony appears. And yeah, that takes her back a bit because this is the first time this is the first time she's meeting Tony after learning about his truth in the previous episode. So Tony's here, and Tony's like, hey, I got something to tell you. I've got a surprise. And Desna is trying to play it cool. She's like, you know what? I'm not a fan of surprises. You know that. And Tony's like, hey, it will be worth your while, so let's go. And Desna's like, well, I can't go right now. I have to go to the bank. And Tony's like, I thought you said you had to go to the salon. And Desna's like, yeah, 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 yeah. A person from the bank is coming to the salon so that we could like increase our loan and stuff. And Tony's like, well, when you're done with our surprise, you won't have to worry about money anymore. And that's not like, you know what, I'll do it, but after I've gone to the salon. So over at Virginia's house, Polly is crying because Axel died in the previous episode while he was trying to be intimate with Polly. And Polly, I guess she had true feelings for Axel because even Jen is like, "Hey, Polly, this isn't the first time you've fallen in love, huh? So why are you acting like this?" And Polly is like, "Well, in my previous relationships, there was a bit of craziness and murdering involved, and stealing and thieving. So I'm not really sure." How you can compare those relationships with the one that I have with Excel. And Jen is like, well, you were killing old people, right? But yeah, she's devastated, and they notice that Virginia and Georgia aren't there, and neither is the car. And it turns out that yeah, Virginia decided to go back to the location where she ended up killing Georgia. Now, there were some fan theories talking about how it was all an act and Virginia didn't actually kill Georgia, but I guess she did. I guess she did. And I'm like, oh, Virginia. And yeah, Virginia did find out in this episode that Georgia basically died for nothing because it was Jen who has been skimming the oxy that they had. So yeah, Virginia went there, and it turns out that the police was able to find Georgia's dead body. But as far as Virginia is concerned, as of yet, in this particular scene, she doesn't know about Jen. That Jen's the one who has been stealing the oxy, and yeah, I guess she's also proud of herself for a job well done because she did all of this to impress Desna. So we get a scene where Tony takes Desna to meet his friend or whatnot, and yeah, they are driving, and I'm like, are they really driving a car? Because Desna's hair isn't moving in the wind and all of that stuff. But yeah, they continue talking, and as these two are talking, Bryce keeps on calling, and Desna doesn't isn't picking up, and Tony is like, "Hey, Desna, why don't you just answer Bryce?" What's he talking about? And yeah, this is where Bryce tells Desna that he ended up taking his patches to the sleep center and that he wants to make it bigger, go nationwide. And because Desna is sitting with Tony, she doesn't want Bryce saying more. And she's like, hey, Bryce, we'll talk about this later. However, if you can relay my message to Jen, I want Jen to, I just tell Jen to prepare an ambrosia salad for me. And I'm like, okay, so is that supposed to be a code word for something? But yeah. Anyway, we move forward. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention that yeah, Tony didn't allow Desna to go to the salon first. He wanted Desna to go meet up with his friend, and that's why I guess Desna was trying to ask Bryce to relay the message to Jen. So anyway, we are at Quiet Ant's trailer park, and Cherry has helped Quiet Ant back, and yeah, this is where these two have to break up. And I'm like, Cherry, you could have seen this coming. You should have seen this coming. That Quiet Anne wasn't going to take you with her to a new city and start a new life. But yeah, Cherry walks away. She's disappointed, and Uncle Daddy comes and walks up to Quiet Anne, and I'm like, oh no, this could be trouble. This could be trouble because Uncle Daddy tries to get Quiet Anne to stay, and Anne is like, hey, I appreciate everything that you did for me. I appreciate our time working together, but I have to go, Clay. I have to leave. And Clay is like, well, that felt like a dagger to my heart, huh? And at this point, I really thought that Clay ended up kidnapping Quiet Anne. So, uh, where were we? Yeah. So Desna ends up meeting Tony's friend, who's basically a DEA cop undercover, and she's trying to get Desna to say yes to a deal in which she needs a whole lot of drugs, a very big order, and she also needs heroin. And it's basically a trap to try and get Desna to contact the DEA officials to her supplier and all of that stuff. And Desna, because she's on to the DEA, she's like, I'll see what I can do. I'm not saying yes to the deal right now because my supplier is in flux, but I'll get back to you. So finally, Desna is able to make it to the salon where Virginia, Polly, and Jen are waiting for her. And yeah, this is where she breaks the news. She's like, Tony's DEA. None of us saw it coming. And even Polly is like, yeah, even though I'm the one who is scamming people and conning people and all of that stuff, I'm impressed by what Tony did. And I'm like, are you really? Because all of us knew that something was up with Tony. So everyone is trying to figure out what they need to do next. And Desna is like, hey, my crew, you guys are my crew, so you don't have anything to worry about. I'll take all of the blame on me. I'll tell the DEA that you forced me to go down. Not you forced me to go, my bad. As I said, I have a cough and my senses are. So yeah, Desna's like, hey, I'll just tell the DEA that I forced you all to say yes to me and do everything that I needed you all to do. And this is also where Desna's like, hey, Jen, you were talking to Tony, so did you let anything slip? And Jen is like, no, never. And also, why would I be working with the DEA? And yeah, and she's also like, if I get arrested, I will never be able to see my kids again. So as far as Desna is concerned, Jen can be trusted. And yeah, after Desna walks away, telling the crew that she'll take all the blame, this is where the friends are like, we can't let Desna do this. We have to figure out how we're going to handle the Tony situation. Polly is like, you know what? I'm all alone. I don't have any kids or nothing. I'll take the blame. And Jen is like, no. We need to do something else. And this is where Virginia ends up telling Polly and Jen that, you know what, even though we are still trying to figure out the Tony situation, I have to tell you guys that the police ended up finding Georgia's body, and of course they're going to pin it on us. And this is where Jen and Polly is like, wait, what? Georgia's body? Georgia's dead? And Jen is like, yeah, I killed her. And Jen is like, okay, so you're out there killing people now, huh? And Polly is kind of impressed because as far as Polly is concerned, Polly was like, maybe Virginia helped Georgia run away from town, but that was something that I was expecting too. I wasn't expecting Virginia to kill Georgia, but she did what she did. So of course, listening about Georgia's death and the DEA being after them, of course, Jen is being an emotional mess, and she's like, yeah, she's having kind of a panic attack, and she starts using again. And while that's happening, Desna and not Desna, Dean and Eve and just finished hooking up, and this is where Eve is like, oh, I feel something. I feel something. It's as if your sperm ended up finding my egg, and now the zygote is implanted in me, and all of that stuff. And Dean is like, wait, I thought you were like in you were like post menopause and all of that stuff. And he's like, yeah, most women my age are like that, but I'm a rare exception because of the tea I drink and all of that stuff. So yeah, Eve is pregnant, and Bryce ended up handing down his substances at the sleep clinic, and he ends up meeting Drew. And yeah, these two end up talking a bit, and Jen is trying to get call Bryce, and Bryce declines her call, and Drew is like, okay, so marriage troubles. Well, if you want my advice, I say that go and cut that cancer out, which we'll get to near the end of the episode. So yeah, Jen is trying to call Bryce. He's not picking up, so she leaves him a voice message, and yeah, you can tell that it's not going to end well for her. So Virginia and Polly are trying to figure out how they can frame Tony. They're like, hey, he was the one making deliveries for us, right? So we can kind of frame him if we find some evidence, and then we'll make him our bitch. And yeah, they're happy. These two trying to work their brains. I'm like, okay, go for it. And they're also like, we can kill Tony. And then Virginia's like, but what if the other DEA member officers comes looking for him? And she's like, yep, red wedding, red wedding. So anyway, these before these two can talk further, Polly's like, wait, what if Tony bugged the place, huh? And that worries Virginia. And Polly's like, hey, can you go check on Jen and ask her to come out already so that she can help us think about how to deal with Tony? So Virginia goes, she knocks on the bathroom door, and yeah, of course, Jen's not responding. She opens the door, and yeah, Jen is down. Jen is down. So everyone is at the hospital, and Desna is blaming herself for this because she's like, you know what? I was so caught up in everything that I am dealing with that I couldn't help my own friend. I couldn't see how much she needed us. And even Polly and Virginia are blaming themselves as well because being friends, they should have figured out that something was happening to Jen. And this is where Virginia finally realizes that okay, Jen was taking the oxy. Okay, but Virginia was trying to say that Jen was taking the oxy and Georgia was still stealing the oxy. And Polly is like, it's very unlikely that two of these things were happening. So, if you ask me, it was only Jen skimming the oxy, and Georgia was innocent. And Virginia is like, what? It finally clicks for her, and of course she is being an emotional mess, understandably, because Virginia's like, I killed my friend. I killed my friend for nothing. I killed my friend for you, Desna, because I wanted to impress you, because you're the one who told me to handle the shit. And Desna's like, hey, don't you go blaming everything on me. You're the one who brought Georgia into the fold, and you're the one who told Georgia about killing Bambi. All of this wouldn't have happened if you had kept your mouth shut about Bambi. And yeah, Polly's trying to calm the situation down, but no, it's not working. And Desna walks off. And then we cut to Clay, and again, at first, I was like, okay, so did Uncle Daddy kidnapped White Anne? And then we got this scene, and I'm like, don't tell me that Clay ended up kidnapping White Anne, and he has her in one of his cages. Thankfully, that didn't happen. That didn't happen because I was like, you know what, Clay has gone crazy, and he ended up imprisoning her in the wooden cage, and he's going to force her to have a baby in front of him in like the coming month or a few weeks. Oh, if that had happened, wow. But yeah, it turns out that he was planning to make this area a nursery, and yeah, he ends up talking to his dead wife, and they decide that, you know what, if you build it, they come. So I guess he's going to work on creating a nursery, and think that after he has constructed the nursery, either he's going to kidnap White Anne or he's going to kidnap the baby from the hospital. Let's see. So Bryce finally comes to the hospital, and yeah, he is an emotional mess as well because, of course, his feelings towards Jen, they do love each other, but there are a whole lot of complications involved. And this is where Virginia is like, Bryce, even you didn't know that she was using, and Bryce like, no, I didn't. And I'm like, Bryce, you knew. So he asks for privacy with his wife, and he sits down with Jen, and he is like telling her that he still loves her, and that he should have been more there more for her, and he should have been more supported and all of that stuff. And he just doesn't want her to die because he needs her, the girls need her, and he is kind of going crazy as far as he's concerned. And he's like, you know what, this is what insanity, I guess, feels like, because I hate you and I love you. And Polly comes in to comfort Bryce, and Bryce is like, like, no, no, you don't understand. All of this is your fault. We should never come back from Tampa. And he storms off. So this is where Desna, Polly, and Virginia are trying to figure out what to do with the Tony situation, and Desna's like, yeah, yeah, I'm trying to think of it, and she also kind of alludes to the fact that, or basically it's a rumor. Yeah, it's basically because we know that Jen and Clay didn't, not Clay, Jen and Tony didn't hook up, and Desna's like, hey, maybe her wanting emotional love and affection, maybe that's why she was being flirty towards Tony. Who knows? So, Quiet Anne walks in, and we get this very, very fun puppet sequence where Quiet Anne walks in, and yeah, everyone starts arguing, and Polly tries to calm the situation down again, but yeah, everyone is arguing, and Jen wakes up finally. I'm like, okay, okay, Jen is up. I'm glad because I don't want her dead. So Jen wakes up, and yeah, this is where everyone is like, "We should have helped you, Jen, and why were you doing this? You should have come to us." And Jen is like, "Hey, all of you were dealing with your own stuff, so I just felt alone, and that's why I started using." And uh, this is where Virginia talks about Georgia, and Virginia's like, wait, wait, wait. So you knew that Georgia didn't steal anything, and you didn't say anything, and I still ended up killing my friend, and yeah, it's an emotional mess. Everyone is trying. It's just bad. It's just bad. And I really appreciated the fact that Jen decided to put her foot down, and she ended up talking to all of her entire group, because she was like, you know what? When I look at the four women in front of me, I don't recognize none of you. And she's like, I want you all to leave me alone. And because she tells Virginia that she wasn't the one who told her to kill Bambi, Virginia needs to accept her take accountability for her decisions, and then Jen decides to talk to Desna and White Anne, and how all of this started because these two couldn't mend things up, and they thought that, you know what, entering this weird war was more valuable than preserving their friendship and all of that stuff. And she's like, you know what, just get out. And White Anne leaves. And then we get a comedic scene where, because Axel is dead, Axel's attorney ends up calling Axel's children and Polly, his wife, but he's dead. What do you call? A widow? Widow? Yeah, a widow. My bad. I couldn't remember the word. So yeah, everyone is there, and the daughter is apparently stuck in on a cruise in Antarctica or something. And yeah, Polly's like, you know what? I think that this one isn't even Axel's son, and and I'm like, okay, Polly, go off. But yeah, the lawyer ends up telling everyone that Axel ended up leaving his grandchildren trust funds, which they can access when they turn 25. Which, you know what, he was a good grandpa. However, he didn't leave his children anything because they are spoiled and entitled. And he also made a whole lot of donations to various organizations, and Polly ends up getting a whole lot of money. And there's also a note which basically says that Axel knew that Polly was a grifter, and she was after his money and all of that stuff, but he still loved her because he hadn't felt that alive until he met Polly. And Polly is just happy that Axel loved her for who she was. Yeah, she's just happy, and I'm happy for Polly because she did go through a bit of an emotional conflict trying to decide whether she should tell Axel about the truth about herself. So Dean decides to go and talk to Virginia because, yeah, if you guys remember, these two didn't these two decided not to go forward with having a kid because Dean needed to go through some growth, as did Virginia. So Dean tells Virginia about Eve being pregnant, and he's like, you know what, Virginia, I'm ready to be a dad. And Virginia's like, you know what, good for you. You have gone through a whole lot, and I'm proud of you. And Dean is like, hey, I can notice that you're upset. Are you okay? And Virginia is like, you know what, Dean, it's nothing. And talking to you, I realized that, you know what, all of us have to accept our decisions. They have to take accountability for the decisions that they have made, and they just can't go around blaming other people. for that. And then we get a scene where Desna is driving White and these two talk about their fractured friendship and how they still have feelings for each other as friends and they still love each other and all of that stuff. But things got in the way because Desna is like, you know me, White, and you know that as far as I'm concerned, the safety of my crew is a priority, and is like, yeah, I realize that. And this is where Anne tells Desna that she's having a baby girl and that she'll name her Arlene, which that was cute. And as they're driving, Desna is like, hey, I just need to like hit one or two more banks and then you'll get your 1,000 grand and then you can leave town. However, I need to tell you that Tony is DEA, and that really shocks White Anne, and she's like, "What? We have been working with a DEA near us. How could you do this, Desna? How could you? How could you bring him in? And now I'm going to be stuck because even if I take your money and even if I run away to another city, the DEA will track me down." And Desna's like, "Hey, you don't have anything to worry about. I'll help you and all of that stuff." And White is like, Anna's like, what will it take, Desna? What will it take to get you out of my life? And she just walks away. And I'm like, you know what? I think that these two are going to come together as friends by the end of the season. And I highly doubt that that dream sequence in the premiere where Desna ended up shooting White Anne, I don't think that's going to happen. But let's see. So Virginia decides to apologize to Jen because she's like, you know what, Jen, I understand where you were coming from because, yeah, you're right. You weren't the one who told me to kill Georgia. I decided to do that myself because I wanted to impress Desmond. And I'm like, yep, Virginia, you decided to do that yourself because because according to Polly's suggestion, she could have helped Georgia run away. And Jen is like, you know what? As far as I can tell, it feels as if Desna is treating us like puppets. She's pulling the strings and all of that stuff. And then Jen talks about how she couldn't be with her kids while they were trying to confront Bambi, and she's like, "That's not how you treat your friends, Virginia. And we need to do something about this. We have to stand up to Desna." And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how Virginia and Jen stand up to Desna, how that's going to pan out. So Tony has been invited over for dinner, and Desna ends up feeding him a mushroom that's very, very spicy. And this is where Desna is like, "Hey Tony, I know that you have been lying to me." And I'm like, wait. Is Desna going to tell him that she knows that he's DEA? Is she really going to do that? But now it turns out that she ends up telling Tony that he should have told her about Jen using because Jen told her that it was Tony who gave her the drugs and all of that stuff. And Tony is like, hey, I apologize. I wanted to tell you, but you were very busy. So yeah, forgive me and all of that stuff. And what about, and then he ends up switching the subject because he's like, what, have you thought about the deal for my friend? And Desna is like, hey, I've got something way better planned. And of course, that excites Tony because, as far as Tony is concerned, working for the DEA, he just wants to get as close to Desna's supplier as possible so that he can make an arrest and all of that stuff. And I'm also like, DEA agents hooking up with drug dealers, is that even legal? I'm not really sure. And DEA agents under an entirely new identity. Like, is that entire thing illegal that you can hook up with a drug dealer, sleep with them, and all of that stuff in order to gain information? So anyway, we see Bryce. He's being an emotional mess in his car, and he ends up finally listening to Jen's voicemail, where Jen is like, "Hey, Bryce, I need you. I need you to be with me, and I need you to love me, and I need you to know that you still love me." And yeah, Bryce basically declining Jen's call during the day. He that really gets to him, and he actually blames himself for what happened to Jen, and he's like, "You know what, my love." I'm going to make this right. I'm going to make this right. And I'm going to cut the cancer. Now, I'm like, at this point, what does Bryce mean that he's going to cut the cancer? Does he mean that he's going to kill Tony? Because Bryce doesn't know that Tony is working for the DEA, right? Or is Bryce going to go and kill Desna because he thinks that Desna ended up ruining his marriage? I'm not really sure. So the episode ends up moving towards Dean talking to Eve, where Dean is like, you know what, let's have a baby together. I've gone through some growth. Let's do this. And I also applied for a midwifery school and all of that stuff. I'm ready. And we also get a little scene where Dean is like, you know what, I'm very concerned. I'm a bit concerned about whether or not my child will end up having the same needs as mine. And Eve is like, you know what, Dean, you're perfect just as the way you are. And yeah, we can co-parent this child together. And yeah, the episode ends with Anne basically making contact with Laurie and Tony. And yeah, because as far as Anne is concerned, she just wants a new life for herself and her kids. She can't go to jail. And this is where she's like, you know what? If I help you, if I give you a whole lot of information about Desna and Clay Husser, will you give me immunity and protection and all of that stuff? And Tony and Laurie are like, yeah, we can do that, we can do that. So let's start. And this is where the episode ends. If I end up doing a written review just for the Geek Theory, the link to the review will be down in the comment section below as soon as the review is published on the website. It was a fun episode. And I had been looking forward to seeing Virginia's emotional response when she figures out that she didn't have to kill Georgia like that, and we got that in this episode. But I also think that she kind of handled it quite well. I really thought that her emotional state was going to be explored uh, for like 2 or 3 episodes, at least 2 episodes. But maybe it will. Maybe it will come back because we yeah, her emotional state, I think that could be explored in the upcoming episode when Virginia and Jen decide to stand up to Desna. Let's see. Or maybe the writers want Virginia to move past that already because we only have 2 more episodes left for this final season to end. But yeah, anyway, even though it wasn't as satisfying as I was expecting it to be, at least the writers still tried to explore Virginia's feelings. But yeah, coming to Quiet and hooking up with Tony and Laurie. and hooking up, I mean being in contact with them. But yeah, I'm not really sure if she'll rat Desna out. Maybe she'll rat Clay Husser. I'm not sure. At this point, I'm not really sure. And if you guys ask me again, at this point, I have no idea how this show is going to end. But yeah, feel free to share your thoughts down in the comment section below. And until next time, stay happy, stay safe, stay blessed. See you guys later.